Hello, welcome to the Can Sci-Fi channel, and I'm Christopher Caniff, and today I'll be interviewing Meeno Peluce, who is the star of many things back in the late 70s, early 80s, including a hit television show called Voyagers. So I'm looking forward to that interview and grateful to be interviewing Meeno. So I'll just start with introducing my book, so Intervals of Hope. So in this novel, it's a boy, Nicholas Dixon, who lives with his mother and brother in London, England between the wars, and it's based on the life of a British commando in World War II, pictured here. So this is Gordon Shotlander, and he's holding up his medals of his father. So his father was in World War I, he was in World War II. So it serves as the basis for that novel. And this one is Poor Man's Galapagos. So that one is set in Ecuador, South America, where I lived for a year. And it's about an irrigation engineering student whose father disappears, and then he has to find out what happened to him and where he went. So very interesting novel as well, and based on real people that I knew there as well. And as well, I've got Abundance of the Infinite. So this was released back in 2012. And in this one, this is more of a psychological novel. It's a short novel exploring the nature of dreams and kind of the interaction between reality and dreams. So very exciting novels, and very pleased to be interviewing Meeno today. So thank you.
Who are you? What are you?
I'm a Voyager.
You are on a voyage back through the ages, through the mystery and wonder of time travel. Voyagers.
We travel through time to help history along. Give it a push where it's needed.
Visit those remarkable centuries gone by.
Moses was found by the Pharaoh's daughter in the Nile.
It's science fiction, science fantasy for the entire family. Voyagers. Saturday morning at 7:30.
So Voyagers, for those that don't know, is an American time travel television series that aired on NBC from October 3rd, 1982 to July 10th of 1983, and it starred Jon-Erik Hexum as Phineas Fogg and Meeno Peluce as Jeffrey Jones. So it was the best time travel television show that was ever made, and that's my opinion, but I think a lot of people have that opinion, and I think there's a very diehard fan base out there that I've talked to a lot of people that are diehard fans like me, and so it's an honor and a real dream come true to be interviewing the star of that show, Meeno Peluce. So welcome, Meeno.
Thank you, thank you.
Yeah.
Moses!
What? Hey, be careful with him, will ya?
He's Moses! This is Mary Murphy. You're the Eddie Rickenbacker?
Agnes. Spence.
Wilbur Norval, right. What was that guy?
It's Red. Richtofen.
Richtofen.
Oh, Cicero.
Spartacus. Harriet Tubman. Sam Clemens.
Somebody special?
Only my favorite writer in the whole world.
My name is Davis. This is Remington.
Who's the guy with the kite?
Ben Franklin.
William Bonney.
It's Billy the Kid.
Oh, Mr. Roosevelt.
Be these accusations true, Abaya Folger?
I'm as innocent as an unborn child.
I am Harry Houdini, and I don't believe any of this.
That was Francis Scott Key.
Oh.
The Honorable Justice Samuel Sewell hath declared the good and right Reverend's noise in Paris.
Lawrence?
Lawrence! It is Lawrence! It is Lawrence!
Lawrence of Arabia?
John Crucy. Kid, this is Thomas Edison. He probably invented the thing.
Not quite, Crucy.
The man without the mustache is Grosvenor Lowry, one of the biggest backers of the Edison Light Company.
Who's the other guy?
The biggest backer, J.P. Morgan.
Right. Cleopatra?
Yes? You're forgiven, Mr.
Luciano.
Fogg, that was Newton. Sir Isaac Newton.
Well, good morning, Mr. Ruth.
Uh-oh, it's the Roman.
It's Mark Antony.
That's Abraham Lincoln. Charles Dickens.
Do I know you, son?
Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States and Mrs. Lincoln.
I've invited Miss Phillips to join Ms. Lincoln and me at the White House for coffee.
The only Lafitte I know is Pierre Lafitte.
I'm William Clark. This is Meriwether Lewis.
So it's John Lafitte you're looking for?
You know him?
Oh, indeed I do. He's right over there having a little chat with Lizzie.
All right, Scroggins, let's have it.
Don't worry, Joan Jackson. They'll be here plenty of time. That's Albert Einstein. Did you say her name was Barton?
Yes, it's Clara Barton.
That's it.
What?
Clara Barton founded the American Red Cross.
New in the presence of great Kublai Khan.
You certainly saved our Marco's head.
Are you really Charles Lindbergh?
Yeah, that was Doc Kimball who just called.
Bixby, what's going on?
That British admiral sure did look familiar.
Washington? He should. He's in charge of the whole area.
Wait a second, we're not talking about George Washington.
The best they have.
Goodbye, Mother.
Goodbye, George.
Samuel! Sam, I'm back! It's Joan. Jones is here with the money.
The name's Oakley, but you can call me Annie.
Buffalo Bill? That's Queen Victoria.
Princess Victoria, let me help you.
Why, Duke Michael.
Dr. Schweitzer?
Yes. The hospital send the medicine with you?
I'll get Sam Houston.
Bill Cody?
Buffalo Bill?
Give me a break.
Bug, look! It's MacArthur!
Now calm down, Mr. Ismay. My name's Molly Brown.
The Titanic's going to sink? My, you do have an imagination.
He's a doctor.
Bog, if you paid attention in class, you'd know that this is Dr. Louis Pasteur. He discovered the cure for rabies.
Are you Dr. Von Braun?
Eleanor! Did the script get off?
Oh, yes, Franklin.
That's Joe Louis, heavyweight champ.
Bog!
What?
My name is Mabel Hubbard.
Excuse me, Mr. Hubbard. Could you tell us where we might find Alexander Graham Bell? Are you Professor Bell?
Yes, I am. Don't mind Watson. He's been working too hard.
You know, this baby's gonna be head of the Allied forces in World War II and President of the United States.
Who are you?
Dr. Arthur Conan Doyle.
I'm Nellie Bly.
Let's do a little time travel. You said, when did it start airing?
October 3rd of 1982.
All right, so that's this time of year in 1982.
Yes.
And when was the last episode aired?
That was July 10th of 1983.
That wasn't even a year later. That's crazy.
Yeah, yeah.
Because if you look at those clips, you see Meeno starts as a baby.
Yeah.
And by the time we're finishing the series, like, I'm a teenager.
Yeah. Yeah, your voice is changing at the end, right? You can tell. Yeah.
All of that was changing.
Right. Yeah.
That's so wild, right? Because, you know, I've got nephews that age now. I've got daughters myself who are now grown, but seeing that young boyhood, that beautiful innocence that's like right at the cusp of becoming a teenager, of becoming a lot more worldly and wise.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, it was
like,
great looking through those clips, and because I don't ever remember feeling young.
Mm-hmm.
I always felt kind of grown up about things because I've been acting for a long time. By then I was the seasoned actor, and Jon-Erik was the newbie, and
yeah.
There's so many great twists and turns to that relationship. I mean, he was such a pal.
Yeah.
It was a great time of life. And it was a great time of life. I mean, I remember it so fondly, but I see that and looking back at those clips, like, yeah, to be going from that boyhood to young manhood and to have that big brother, right? To have that figure with me was awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. So even though you were the more seasoned actor, I saw another video that said that weeks before Jon-Erik Hexum was kind of scraping dinner plates and doing stuff. And then, you know, you're out acting, doing your different acting jobs, and then you come together and you kind of feed off of each other. And yeah, it's just amazing. And the chemistry there was amazing.
As a time traveler visiting various moments in history, but he's also a father figure to his 12-year-old co-star, Meeno Peluce.
Remember, the shooting guns, there's explosions going off, so watch something, right?
Okay.
You got it now? I don't have to explain this to you anymore, right?
Huh?
I don't have to explain this to you anymore, right?
Yeah, I got it.
Okay.
I got it.
Get out there and do your stuff.
9 weeks before Voyagers started shooting, Jon-Erik was scraping spaghetti off plates. He had paid his dues and stage roles and was looking for a big break in Hollywood. When it finally came, it was quite a thrill.
Oh, I was excited to death. I was, trying not to smile and trying to look cool and nonchalant. They hit the boards and stuff and get speed and the microphones coming and everything. I was just trying to be cool, But I was delighted.
There's a clip of an interview where the interviewer supposes that maybe they went with John, because it was written originally for like a 40-year-old guy and a young boy, and the interviewer supposes, well, maybe they went with Jon-Erik because he was sexier and they're going to pull in a younger audience with that. I'll tell you exactly why they went with Jon-Erik. Ready?
Yes.
The casting process is generally like this. You have what's called the cattle call, where tons of people come in and they read for the casting directors. And, you come in, you get the sides, you learn them, you do your thing, and then maybe you get a callback. And as a kid, I got callbacks all the time. It became second nature. So now they start whittling it down. And then when they've whittled it down even further, you finally have an interview with the network. So now you're beyond just the casting people. Now you're going to meet the producers, you're going to meet the heads of the network. They're going to see if they agree with the casting directors about chemistry. And that's what it really comes down to, is chemistry.
Mm-hmm.
And so they had rounded down to 4 of us. There was an older guy and Jon-Erik. There was me with my curly hair and big eyes. And then there was this other kid who was kind of blonde and maybe a little chubby and glasses, kind of more of the stereotypical know-it-all kid, right?
Yeah.
And by then, you've become conversant with the scene because you've done it a lot of times. So we each started to rehearse the scene with the other people. And Jon-Erik and this other kid went in, and I'm working the scene out with this guy. And and by now, remember, I'm not a novice, so I know what it means to just get into a scene, to start working off the other person, drawing off that energy. And we're having a good time. It's going well. And then they come out and they said for the other guy and the other kid to go in. So Jon-Erik and I start to rehearse.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all over. And we know instantly that there is that magic, that spark. I mean, just all this stuff going on between us as we're bringing these characters to life. This is such a perfect memory for me. The next thing is that then you have to go and you start the pre-production process. You go to, you get to wardrobe. And this is the wardrobe of this universal lot. It's a big wardrobe department. This is, the the holdover from the great days of the studios.
Yeah.
And
I've been there a couple times as well. Yeah.
It's amazing. So we're having a great time trying on all these outfits and all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then Jon-Erik says to my mom, hey, now we're going to be done soon. Can he hang out with me so we can get to know each other more? Yeah. And we're going to go sneak around the back lot together, and then I'll drive him home.
Amazing.
And it was awesome. Okay, so you're 12 years old. What's one of the most important things in your life is being able to throw a good spiral with a football, right? That's something you aspire to when you're a little kid, right?
Right.
I'm hanging out with a guy who says, all right, go long. And I go long, and he goes, go longer. Go longer. He can throw the ball 100 yards, but this isn't just any 100 yards. This is 100 yards through the back lot of Universal Studios, right? With the trams going by, and they're looking at who are these characters playing football on the back lot while we're trying to have our tour of movie lore. And we just had the place to ourselves. It was exquisite, and we became best buddies. And then I remember he gave me a ride home, and he had such a beater of a car. I mean, he'd come to LA with that dream. He had waiting tables. He had this whole resume of things. He explained to me, like, no, my actual only acting job was I was a broccoli in 3rd grade.
Yeah.
And he was such a natural. He was awesome. And everything he did just came from being totally himself, totally spontaneous. Jon-Erik was fantastic.
So yeah, he seemed like he would be amazing to work with, just because the chemistry that you guys had, but also like your individual acting ability. Was that kind of natural? Like that was naturally you, or did you have to like kind of reach out and get into the character, and it was so different from you that like what was that process like?
So remember, by the time I'm 12, I've essentially been acting almost half my life, right?
Yeah.
I never studied acting. You're a little kid. You don't need to study acting, because acting is just being, is doing the zoo. You're just behaving, you're reacting as honestly as possible. And when you're a little kid, you don't really have that painful light that where you see back on yourself and you judge yourself, and you don't pay attention to yourself. You just go into make-believe and you just believe what you're doing. And that's why little kids can often be such amazing actors. And I thrived on that because it was all just make-believe.
Voyagers will return after these messages.
So my parents, I was born on the road in Amsterdam. My parents were on their way to India to go have this incredible adventure, but they had to have me first because they couldn't get into India as a pregnant woman. You need shots and all these things.
Wow.
This is the end of the 60s. I'm born 1970 on a snowy night. So this was my early years, was being on the road. You have to entertain yourself by playing, by drinking in all these wild scenarios around you. There's no American TV to pacify you. You know how to entertain yourself. And so then we come back to America, and my parents shortly thereafter split up. So, that's damaging to a young kid's psyche. So what do you do? Well, you play all the more, you make believe, you go into your own internal worlds. So when I started acting in front of the camera, I was just doing what I did all the time anyway. I was always just making believe and creating, and
so natural.
Out the scenarios that I was writing, and now someone else was handing me, oh, here's the scenario you wrote. Okay, I'll remember these lines and I'll do this. And it was funny because now as a director, I'll work with little kids, and some of them have it and some of them don't. And people always told me that I was a very professional young actor. And I had no idea what that meant. Like, of course I'm professional. You hired me. This is a profession. It just dawned on me, like, this is what you do. You show up and you do the stuff. You hit your marks. You know your lines. You get involved. You react. And that was second nature to me. But like, I've worked with little kids who don't know that they're not supposed to look right in the lens. And it dawns on me, right? These are things that to me were natural. And that was kind of, this is why I didn't become one of these tragedies of Hollywood child actors. Was because I was not a celebrity. I was not forced into it. It was something that I wanted to do, that I had to really talk my mom into letting me do.
Yeah.
And so I had all my friends there and the parents there. It was a great little private school in Los Feliz of LA. And that I was always grounded, right? I never had this celebrity stuff going on around me. I was a working actor. And when I wasn't a working actor, I was a kid going to school. And the only difference was, like, when all the other kids had plastic skateboards, I had the first metal skateboard, right? Because it was the first thing I bought myself with my own money.
Yeah.
This cool metal skateboard.
Yeah.
But otherwise, there was the continuity of just being a kid, and I brought that to the stage, to the set.
And now back to Voyagers.
Yeah.
And so I brought that to this experience of Voyagers, but by now I was kind of seasoned at it. But there was this guy who was very much a natural with regard to like being, you know, he has this incredible physique, right? He was so strong and everything. And, you know, he had said on his resume that he was on the football team from his college. Well, he wasn't really on the football team. He was on the cheerleading squad.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I mean, it was all this, it was this great rosying up of his thing, but it worked, and he got the gig, and he deserved the gig because he really was great at embodying the character, exuding the warmth that really was his, reacting and playing off me. And then, this is really neat, when you're doing a series, there's this interesting continuity from episode to episode, right? Where you have the cast and you have the crew. Generally, the things that change are the guest stars, and often the director. You'll have a different director. Sometimes you have a recurring director, but a lot of times you have different directors who come in. And so you, as part of the continuing group of people, because the cast and crew always working together, you become this one symbiotic unit, right? And then these new people come in, and you have to welcome them in and welcome them into the working relationship that's already going on, that's making the magic that is whatever that magic is of that show, right? Yeah. Like 8 is Enough. I got to, it was great because it's a show I was watching as a kid, and all of a sudden I got to go guest star on it. Yeah. You know, there's all those different cast members, and it was like this amazing family unit thing that was built into that. With Voyagers, it was interesting because it was just the two of us.
Yeah.
And everyone else,
right?
Everyone else was a guest.
Yeah.
So we really defined what that was with each week.
Did that put more pressure on you, I wonder, because
oh, no pressure at all. It was like, yeah, like welcome to our gang, welcome to our clubhouse. Here's how we do this. We have a lot of fun. And I can remember there were some actors who were, because we just played a lot, and we were just very playful about it. There were some actors who kind of took their craft more seriously and were very into staying into character and staying focused between shots. And you know, the only one that I could kind of get into that solemnness with and take it seriously was the guy who played Abe Lincoln. Because I'm like, okay, this is Abe Lincoln. I got to be serious too.
Yeah. Did you see him in a lot of Westerns? He was at a lot of Westerns.
So that was a funny thing. Like, no, I didn't know him as an actor before. And for me, just like you are just Abe Lincoln, man. You are exuding this. He was, he was one of those actors who took it. He just embodied the role, stayed in the role. It was awesome.
Yeah, he always played a villain in the Westerns, and he was really good. Recurring role at different Westerns where he's a villain, and just really very good actor as well. Yeah.
Here's a great Western aside. You know, I did Best of the West, which was a comedy Western, right? Which was a really funny show, and it was all the writers and producers of Taxi. So I mean, these guys really knew how to do comedy television well. And we had Slim Pickens.
Oh, okay.
That guy was awesome. I mean, he was Western royalty, right? And he was such the real deal. So here's a great story. He plays this badass gunslinger come to town. My dad is the sheriff, so he can either like have this contentious relationship with him or kind of like embrace him. And so now he's embraced him, and he brought him to dinner at our little log cabin.
Oh yeah.
Doing a dinner scene. And it's hilarious because you know, when you're acting, everything's a prop.
Yeah.
Right? Like the Omni is a prop. When it's in hand, it's the amazing brass one, but otherwise it's the balsa wood one that's on the belt.
Right. Wow. Yeah, the just throwaway version, right? Where you can throw it around.
Right. So the food is all prop food as well. So we're having this meal in this Western show off these tin plates, and we're eating these cold beans that have just been poured out of a can. And you got to make it look a thing. And then we're in between scenes, and Slim just keeps, man, I love these beans.
Oh yeah.
No, these are terrible. No, these are great. He was just.
Oh, exactly.
Voyagers will return after these messages.
Looked up some of the things you're in. I recently saw you on A-Team. I never knew you were in that show. I never watched it really, but just started watching it, and then I'm like, oh, there's Meeno Peluce. And then saw you in Love Boat.
Wait, picture this, right?
Yeah.
So I'm a little kid, and I finally worked my mom over, you got to let me try this acting thing. I'd gotten a play at school. I hadn't told her about it. So I'm a little kid, and I get a play at school, and I don't tell my mom about it because I think she's not going to let me try it because she was catering. And so I would go to the set with her sometimes, and I would just playing, and I'd take the cups and I'd pop my hands to the bottom so I could have, Wonder Woman bracelets, and I'd just be doing my thing. And we come home, and she'd say, oh, they thought you were really cute. They wanted to put you in the commercial. And I would think, hello?
Yeah, why didn't they?
Well, I told them you were too young. Mom, come on. So I got this play at school, and I figured she wouldn't let me do it, so I didn't tell her. And they called to say, can Meeno stay late for rehearsals? She says, rehearsals for what? So it comes out, I get to do the play, and I ask her again, can I be an actor? And she says, well, if you wait till you're 7, you can give it a try. So my 7th birthday, I went to an agent, they signed me up, and that was it. 2 weeks later, I go to the set of Starsky and Hutch, right? What kid, 1976, 77 is not just in love with Starsky and Hutch, right? The best show ever. And here I am, and I'm so excited. I go to the set, and my first 2 hours as a little kid, maybe I'm 6 years old, my first 2 hours on set are standing in the makeup room while the makeup artist creates welts on my back because I'm playing this kid who's been whipped.
Oh yeah.
Right? And then they bring me onto set, and my first shot is them yanking me out of a trash can where I've been hidden in the trash can.
Yeah, and you're like, that's your intro, right?
This is the real deal, man. I'm getting monster makeup. I'm doing stunts. I was in love with it from the start.
It's amazing.
Yeah. In my latter teens, and I was kind of just done with acting. I was ready to go on to college. I got a gig on this show that was one of these court shows where you just kind of get the script beforehand, you learn the script, you go in, and you don't know, it's not like all the other shows I've done where you know the crew, you know the cast, you've got long standing rehearsals and all the chemistry. Now you just go out there and you do it like a play right off the cuff. It's a very interesting way to do acting. But I'm playing a kid who's taking his own parents to court to get emancipated because I've been burned terribly in a fire, and they won't let me get plastic surgery. And there's this plastic surgeon who wants to do this pro bono work. So you get the story, right?
Right.
So I go in again in the morning, 5 a.m. They lay me down to start putting this warm goo on my face to create the burn. I fall asleep. It's this warm goo. It's 5 a.m. I fall asleep. I wake up, and I'm a burn victim. It's amazing. And acting with a mask on is one of the most incredible things because there's no self, right? You're all hidden. You can just be the actor, no sense of no problem creating the fourth wall.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I walk out there onto the set and start doing this thing, and I can catch out of the corner of my eye people in the crew watching, and the pity and the empathy in their eyes, because they don't know I'm not this creature. It was profound.
Wow.
Right?
Wow.
That was a really powerful acting experience. Like, that was acting, right? And really affecting people in that way. I never did much in the way of theater, and I realize now that was something I missed out on.
Mm-hmm. So you could have done that, but did you have opportunities to do that where you said, no, I've got...
I mean, I was a television actor. It was not something I was going after. There was no, by the time that great little play at school, that kind of program had gone away. So I wasn't at a theater art school. I wasn't pursuing that. And I look back on it now and I realize the experience taught me a good lesson and a bad lesson. The good lesson was that when you want to do something creative, you just do it, and you kind of create the wheel, because then it'll be your wheel. That turns out to be kind of the long way around, right? Like, you have to actually study something to get good at it. Like, as a kid, I wanted to be good at guitar, and like, I learned to strum the guitar and never really grew past that strumming thing. Over COVID, when there was just time to be here, I said, no, now I'm going to give myself the gift. And I really sat down and I learned. And with the help of things like YouTube, you really can access great teachers, great information, great learning. And I was able to get to places that are the kind of learning. Right here, I'll give you the secret. Ready?
Yeah.
Because now I'm a photographer and filmmaker by trade.
Yeah.
And I've taught myself all that over decades.
Wow.
So I've reached kind of a sort of mastery in that field. And what's great about the guitar is I'm very much a student in that field. And when you're a student, you often think about, well, one day I'll be a master.
Yeah.
But the master in me knows.
Yeah.
That as a master, you think, I'll always be a student.
Yeah. So good. Yeah. So good. Yeah. Because like, are you always learning things? That's like, you find need to always be learning things and always be
for me, that's the essence of being an artist. That artistry is language. Mm-hmm. And creating art and being an artist, being involved with your art is about defining your language. It's about finding your language. It's about honing your language and then speaking in it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So that there's the duality of working on it to develop it, and then the application of it. And in applying it, you further learn how to do it. And that was the exciting thing. And then, okay, that goes back to like working with Jon-Erik. When you find someone with whom you really click as an artist,
mm-hmm.
there is synergy. It's an alchemy. It is greater than the sum of its parts.
And you can't fake that. You can't like try and put all this effort into having that, and then it doesn't work, right? It doesn't come across on camera. It doesn't come across as genuine, right? So
that magic stuff, that chemistry, that's just the magic, of finding someone who you really connect with, you really gel with.
Do you?
And now back to Voyagers.
Memories of Jon-Erik. Here's a great one. The first day of shooting Voyagers, and this doesn't like normally happen, but it just worked out like this. The first day of shooting Voyagers, we're shooting the scene that was the scene that is essentially the expositional opening of the entire show. And this is the scene that we had worked on in the interviews, right? So we know this scene back and forth, right? We've done this scene many times. on our own with other people, and then together, that's how we got the job, is by nailing this scene. Now, right now we're come to the first day of filming, and it's this scene, right? So we're like, we know how to do this. And it's great. It's at this place that was called Indian Dunes, just past Magic Mountain, which is, you know, to a little kid, any amusement park, that's sacred ground. So this is like the sacred Indian grounds behind the sacred ground of the amusement park. And it was just this beautiful, very rugged natural area with a river running through it and a cliffside behind it. And we're doing this scene where we're finding this baby in a little raft caught in the bulrush. And we've got, you know, Jon-Erik has to explain to me what's just happened, how we're back in time, how we've got to figure out what's going wrong with history. And then I piece it all together, right? That it's Moses, that we're on the Nile.
Right.
So again, so we get in there, kind of block the scene out on the edge of the water, do a few rehearsals, they roll the camera, we nail the scene. Like, we got this scene in our DNA by now. We do it, great cut, and then they move the camera around and we start to do the scene again. And in between shots, Jon-Erik calls me over and he says, Meeno, how come you're on the other side of the camera? And I go, oh yeah, now I get it, right. You're new to it, kid. This is your close-up, Jon-Erik.
Yeah.
This is how this works.
Excellent. Yeah, that's great. You're the seasoned actor. Yeah. That's excellent. So was that like the pilot I saw was like one of your favorite episodes? I saw another interview with you where you said that that was one of your favorites, right?
All right, well, let me tell you why that was one of my favorites. Like, being the pilot episode, they were able to put a lot into it. Remember, this is an expensive TV show to make. There are production considerations, right? But they want it to go, so like they put a lot into it. We had Rick Toffen with, you know, the Red Baron coming in, and us are falling into the haystack. And I was always bummed when I didn't get to do my own stunts. And for certain things, they don't let you do your own stunts because you're a little kid, you could get hurt, and you're also the actor, you can't get hurt, right? You can afford to have you hurt. But every once in a while, I would get to do my own stunts. So there was a great stunt. It was so much fun. I was bummed that we didn't get to do the drop into the haystack. That was the stuntman, because I'm thinking, come on, it's a haystack, it's going to be great. It was a big haystack, and we're up at the top of it, and we're laughing that we've had this opportunity to actually finally fall into a haystack and have a nice landing. But then all of a sudden, behind us, this biplane comes in, and then they make it look like it's shooting at us. So we have to do this heroic roll down from the top of this dozen-foot-high stack of hay.
That's a great scene.
Right, and then we got to run across this open field where they've got what's called squibs, which are these little explosives in the ground. And what they do is they put on top of them fuller earth, which is a very light, like cork, right? But when the explosion goes off, it pops up and it looks like the earth coming up from a gunshot. And then we do this fantastic dive under a
wagon, right?
Wagon for safety. And I get to do my own stunt in this with Jon-Erik. We get to do this together, and it's hilarious because we go rolling down the thing, pull off this beautiful roll. Now we got to run across the open field with the explosions going off. The way they've timed them out, because they've just the special effects guy just has a little wand and a bunch of these metal spikes, and as he makes the connection, it makes the electrical circuit and it makes the explosion go off. So he's just timing it out with our run. And I realized that he's got it going, so they're essentially going off right between us. And Jon-Erik's running fast, and I'm doing my best to run keep up with him, right? Because he could really run.
Yeah.
Now we're going to do this dive under the wagon.
Yeah.
And I realized these are going off between us. That means as we dive, the last one's going to go off in my face.
Oh, yeah. Right.
I was full of glee. Like, I'm so excited for this stuff, right? I was always, I mean, look, when the camera wasn't rolling, I was definitely doing all my own stunts from the time I was tiny, taking my wheelbarrow, my big wheel down the slide at the park, right? Yeah. So here I go. I do the dive, the thing explodes. I can feel the thing singeing my face. We slide under there, and it's exquisite. It's just movie making. Like, what more could a kid want?
Like, it went off in your face, and you're like, "Oh, this is great."
It was great. So we had so much fun making that.
Oh yeah.
The pilot aired at 8 o'clock. We got picked up. It's a great show. Great, you get picked up, but you're going to get the 7 o'clock time slot. This had many ramifications. One, it put us against 60 Minutes, which was the most popular show in America at the time. Shows lived and died by what was called the Nielsen ratings, which is the box on top of people's TVs, so they could see what they were watching at each time zone. And every week you would look up the Nielsen ratings of all the shows, and you'd look at the top, and there's 60 Minutes, and then you'd look at the bottom, and there's Voyagers.
But you would only have a Nielsen box in each house, right? So then you might have two different people watching different things, and it wouldn't.
That was the problem. That was from a time when there was one TV in the house.
Yeah.
And by now, it's the 80s. Of course, there's more than one TV in the house. And, we're getting flooded with fan mail. We're getting so much love from the community that were digging the show. Yeah. But we had these dismal ratings. And we had this expensive show that was being made.
Yeah.
So there was one other unintended bummer from that set, moving from 8 o'clock to 7 o'clock. Because it was 7 o'clock, it was understood to be more of a family time slot, and thus there were certain prohibitions around children being in danger.
Oh yeah.
So no more could I be anywhere near gunshots.
Yeah.
Right. No more. How about this? Go back and watch, like, Voyagers. There's like a fight in every one, right? Where Jon-Erik gets to be da 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 da. I rarely got to be part of those fights, of course, right? Because I can't be put in danger.
You're like pushing people out of the way and stuff like
that.
Like
there was this great one where I did a leapfrog over a centurion when we were with Spartacus and all this stuff.
Yeah.
But so all of a sudden I got kind of gypped out of doing a lot of stunts, which was a bummer.
Yeah.
It's funny because watch all those fights. No punches thrown.
Yeah. I just recall, like, now you mention it, I just remember you pushing a lot of people out of the way. Just
there couldn't be any punching in the 7 o'clock time slot.
Yeah. So no stunts.
It seems quaint now, right?
Yeah. How far, like, how long between the pilot, like when you made the pilot until you knew, okay, this series has a green light? How long was that? And was that like nerve-wracking or something?
That's how series work. You do a pilot during what's known as pilot season, and then you wait to see what gets picked up. But I mean, you can tell by looking at it, there's enough time that I'm definitely older, right?
Yeah.
Right? Because at that age, you're really growing.
Yeah.
Was it nerve-wracking? It wasn't nerve-wracking because, again, I was used to it. By then, that was my third series.
Yeah.
Voyagers will return after these messages.
I'd been on Bad News Bears TV series with a dozen other kids. That was fantastic. I'd been on The Best of the West, which was this great comedy Western thing with all these fantastic theater actors. That taught me a lot about acting. That was great.
Yeah. Must have matured you quickly to do all that, like acting with these seasoned actors. And
it's interesting. Like, it definitely matured me in that it taught me about being authentic with artistry, right? About being a good artist, about being a professional artist, about a day of make-believe. This is what I still believe, right? Like a day of make-believe is an honest day's work.
Yeah.
You do the good make-believe. And I still do that. That's still how I make my living.
Yeah.
I'm just on the other side of the camera.
Right.
And
that's a cool transition.
yeah, it's good. And it's been healthy, right? And that's key. So those are the elements of it, but you're also still just being a kid, right? Like there's only so many hours a day you're allowed to be on set.
Mm-hmm.
That was a great pain because, like, all right, I come to set and like while they're all having fun shooting, unless I'm in the shot, I got to be in school because you got to somehow find 3 hours a day of schooling within the 6 or 7 hours you're there.
So you have to
it's not 3 continuous hours. It's often like 20-minute segments in between shots.
And now back to Voyagers.
Right. So picture we're on the backlot of Universal at the place where they have the water come rushing down, the Mexican town where the flood comes through.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
And we're doing Mexican Revolution, I think.
Oh.
And right, like Zapata, I think it was. And here I am in between shots, sitting on an apple box with a board across my knees, doing my schoolwork in my whole cool outfit. They're all waiting for that 20 minutes to elapse. I'm waiting for it to elapse so I can get back in the shot. It was great.
That's awesome. Yeah. What a way to grow up. Right.
So sad that like then the day would end for me and not for them. They're still all going to keep going on shooting till later. But yeah. I got to leave because I've had my allotment of hours on the set for the day.
Oh, wow.
And I never leave, of course. I'm having a great time. So that was about right. Yeah.
Awesome. Any other episodes stick out in your mind that like I've got the actual series here. So it was released in 2007. So it's just it was a long time for the fans to wait, but I think once it came out, just the quality of it was amazing, right? And just the artwork on the back and on the front, just amazing, and the quality was great. So any other episodes? I was just watching the one Worlds Apart before our call here, but is there any other ones that you think like, hey, it was a great episode?
Spartacus was really fun.
Yeah, that was cool. Yeah.
I remember the Babe Ruth one was really good, kind of creating tenement New York.
Yeah.
And the guy who played Babe Ruth was a terrific actor, and felt we did some really solid acting in that one.
Yeah, great. Yeah.
There was, anytime we got to do, because there was always that funny moment where we would kind of arrive at a place in our normal regalia, which like it didn't ever have to be, but it was never clearly understood how we would wind up back in our clothes.
Yeah, right. And they were always pristine in the next episode.
And then we would.
And you're always in a rush, like you're time travelers, but you're always in a rush. I don't.
Right. Yeah. Like all that stuff. It's funny because, as a storyteller, as a filmmaker, there are elements of the show which are just really a time capsule of like 80s crap television.
Yeah.
And yet it just worked. Like I watch them with my kids and like, yeah, the magic is there.
Yeah. Do your kids like it?
Take it apart as a film critic, it is just TV pap. But if you watch it as someone who's ready to instantly go into the suspension of disbelief and just take the ride, it's wonderful.
Oh yeah. So your kids like that, like you're acting in that show, and they must get a real kick out of that. It's amazing. I really like the Marco Polo episode. Cleopatra. I think they're all like gems, but myself, I don't have a bad one. The Titanic one, amazing. The Merry Christmas Bog one, great.
I thought the one where we did the Voyager court,
Yep.
right? That was a really interesting one because they got to introduce these other Voyagers. I thought that was a great story idea, right? And then the notion that they wrapped it up with the understanding that I was not, the fact that I had become a de facto Voyager was not an anomaly. That in itself as well was part of the fate of history running correctly.
Right. That's why it's Omni malfunctioned, or like that was predestined that would happen, right?
Right.
So
and you know, like that it is wonderful with time travel. The notion of time travel as a storytelling device allows you to make these questions very tangible about fate, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like how things fall into place. And I like that there was always like these little snippets. So you would fall into, oh, who's that guy over there? Oh, it's Ben Franklin. Let's run over and help him. Like just those little tiny episode durations, you know. So you got some guy dressed up like Ben Franklin in a field, and then boom, you guys are there, you're running off, you're helping them. Okay, on to the next thing. Like it was just
it was a great moment where we're walking along, can't quite figure out what's wrong. Bog picks up a scrap of paper that this guy's, and then I have to say, well, what is it? And he's like, oh, it's just some kind of poem. Oh, say, can you see? And then I realize, wait a minute, and I run up and I give him his poem back.
Oh, another great one, yeah. I just I was going to bring it up later, but I don't know if you're aware of these, like these unaired scripts. Have you like read through these or anything? Okay.
No.
Yeah, because I'm going to send you these because there's one, the King and the Voyager, right? So it's that's this one. So it's Louis the 14th. So you guys kind of land in the time of Louis the 14th, and they're trying to get him out of there, and they're you know, you guys are fighting over the Omni, and like, oh, give me that, I want to check like what time we're in and stuff like that. And it's just like the characters are good again, you know, like it's the same, it's a continuation of everything, right? And but it goes on, and it's got some of the stuff that was with Mabel Hubbard. So they took and rewrote this script to be a part of Barriers of Sound, right? So that Barriers of Sound episode was in part derived from this, but there's like an additional storyline, right? So that's one of them.
Wow.
Yeah, there's also like the Tomb of King Tut. So that's another one. And I'm doing them out of order. This one is August 1982. The other one was October 82. But yeah, the Voyager or Tomb of King Tut. So where you go to Howard Carter in 1925, and then, oh, there's something wrong with King Tut. We better go back to that time. So then you're all of a sudden you're back there. So that, I thought that was so,
really fun.
What's that?
That would have been really fun to do.
Oh yeah, and then the other one, Remembering the Alamo. So that one is a really cool one as well, and you know, something that they did on Time Tunnel and they did on Timeless as well was the Alamo. So you know, that would have been pretty amazing. So just amazing that to see kind of where the series would have went, because this is like season 2 of Voyagers. Okay, this is
yeah.
Right?
If the series would have kept going, wow.
Yeah. What do you think would have happened? Like,
who knows? I mean, you know, had the series been able to be as popular as it was, again, with the on the other TVs that didn't have the Nielsen boxes, and then we would have had bigger budgets. I mean, it really, Jim Parriott had really come up with a gold mine of an idea. And the fact that we were producing those week after week was kind of amazing. You know, those were big things to create
in 1 week span of time, right?
Yeah. And utilizing all the tricks of the backlot of Universal, the bridge that breaks. I mean, maybe at some point it would have been like, all right, we've used all the tricks of Universal, we're out of ideas.
Yeah. So it's that kind of thing. Like it's just it's very entertaining, even to read it and kind of imagine, what these stories would have looked like. And I made like a fan fiction video based on the King Tut one, but it wasn't very well done. But anyway, but I've made a couple of kind
Not
of
easy, right?
videos. Yeah, so I made one that was it's kind of popular. There's like 13,000 views on this one that was in Colonial Williamsburg. So that one, it's just kind of
I was looking at that
going around. Yeah, did you see that one? Yeah. So you just kind of go around, and I was filming as I was there, and then I pieced it into a story after, and just
Right.
what's going to happen in historic Jamestown, and there's no actors. It's not a. I just tried to do like kind of a script with an Omni, and so it's kind of fun for me to do.
But I mean, that's make believe, right?
Yeah,
You have
yeah.
to try and.
Yeah, and I put some music in there, and hopefully it's entertaining to people.
What are the things that cause the viewer to slip into the story?
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know. There was the silly television of the 70s, which will always be so close to my heart. And then and by the time we're getting to the 80s, I'm kind of out of it. I still participated in a bunch of it, and I have great memories of being on the Jeffersons and this kind of stuff. That was all great, but that was late 70s. And then, one of the last things I did after Voyagers was I got to guest star on the TV show that took our time slot and was the only show to ever really prosper in that time slot against 60 Minutes. They actually got great ratings. And it was a little show called Punky Brewster.
Your sister. Yeah, it's close to your heart.
Right. And so I got to be on that, and that was wonderful.
Oh, yeah.
But that was wonderful because I was getting to step into now her professional world. But by then, like, I'm not watching television with any avidity. It wasn't creating my worldview by then.
Yeah. Was that interesting having a sister that was also working on a hit show, and you were working on a hit show, and
Well, so it was not so much at the same time. It was really like in many ways she kind of took the mantle and ran with it.
Yeah, after. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, she was growing up on the sets with me, this very shy little girl, and one day she just kind of came out from behind mom's skirts and said, "Now it's my turn." And oh, indeed it is.
Yeah, another one I found interesting was Timeless as well. So that was recent, within the last few years. That came out. There's a couple seasons, similar to Voyagers in that they traveled to different eras. They had like this larger time machine, and I actually emailed one of the producers. I figured out how to use Twitter, and told them that they should have a remote control that's like an Omni device to get their time machine there, but they never responded. But yeah, that was like a couple of seasons of that, and it was kind of funny that after season 1 it got canceled, and they said, "Oh, okay, it's canceled." They made the announcement, and then later on they came back and said, "Oh no, now we're having season 2," but they attributed that to going back in time and redoing that decision. That's what the producer said.
The handy nature of being able to time travel.
Right. So yeah, so I'm just thinking that some of this like time tunnel and stuff must have maybe even Doctor Who might have fed into some of the scripts and some.
I'm sure all those really inspired Jim Parriott.
Yeah.
To this game with a wonderful head for telling this time travel story.
Yeah. I only just on one video I stated that he commented on one of my videos, so that was really exciting to hear from him as well. Yeah. Yeah.
I remember he gave me the most amazing gift. One Christmas he gave me this thing that had just been created, and it was the coolest thing in the world. Right? This is the guy who had brought like the Omni into my world, and now he was bringing this other piece of technology to my world. He gave me my first Walkman.
Oh, nice.
That was huge.
That's cool.
Orange foam headphones.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Opened up your world, right? That's awesome.
And throw the cassette in there and you just, yeah. That was the height of technology and design and fashion.
Yeah.
Those foam orange headphones, man, that was everything.
That is excellent. Yeah, I don't know if you had a chance to look at so there's a really good Voyagers website. It's called Voyagers guidebook .wixsite.com / Voyagers guidebook. And
yeah, I got to take a look at that and I was impressed. I mean, really, I had no idea there was such a font of keeping up.
Yeah, yeah.
The great love of Voyagers.
Yeah, and it's like really cool artwork. It's really cool photos of, you guys on set, and just some interesting facts and episode rundowns. And then there's the Facebook page that the same person also maintains a Facebook page, and Jim Parriott comes on and comments occasionally on there. But yeah, just so interesting to hear from all the fans, and they're wondering what you're up to, and they're wondering what other people are doing, and oh, I saw this person guest starring on this show, and it's just so like different people in Voyagers and what they're doing, and yeah, so it's really
the propensity for human beings to be avid about something, passionate, that is always a transferable currency. Like having someone be excited excites us.
Yeah,
that's a part of fandom. I got a great little taste of that recently. I never really embraced the celebrity side of my career. I suppose at times it was offered to me, but it was just not something I was very much interested in. So one of the things I'd never done was go to an autograph expo, one of these big expositions where people come to get autographs.
Yeah.
And that gave me such an avenue into understanding the passion behind fandom, right?
Yeah.
It's not just transference, or not just saying, oh, that person's cool because I like that show. No, it's because, particularly when it's something from our childhood, there was some piece of us that got built, some part of our internal narrative that was built along with that because of what was happening in our life.
Yeah.
And thus those people belong to our lives in these powerful ways.
Yeah.
And I love that.
Yeah. So that's interesting that so that was the first time you had done something like that, like a Comic-Con type thing where you're signing autographs. Yeah, so that's cool. Awesome. Yeah, so just with the Omnis, I know there's a few of them that were made. So I kind of researched how were they originally constructed, and what kind of materials did they use? And I've heard they had like 3 of them, and the machined Omni cost like $3,500 back in 1982. That's the kind of figures I heard. And they had a large, heavy one for close-ups, and like a throwaway one for action scenes and things like that.
There were several of them that would go on the belt that were just literally I think it was balsa wood.
Yeah. Did you see was the one that was for the close-ups, was that like huge or something, or was it like?
No, I mean, there was the Omni size, but
Yeah.
it was wonderfully wrought. Yeah, I mean, it was amazing. Someone had painstakingly done that.
Yeah. Oh, that's so cool. Yeah, that's it was like a piece of art too. So, and that's what I do on my channel, is I try and I've made a bunch of them over the years as well. So the one I'm going to be sending to you, I'll kind of show what I've got here. So yeah, I was just going to, I don't know if you can see that. So there's a box, a nice presentation box here. And then, so it's got the Voyagers, and if you can see that.
And it's perfect.
Yeah, so it's, but if you look at the date, I'll show you that as well. So this is there. So maybe you can't see that, but it says the start of the show. So it's the
Oh, that's perfect.
1982. So this one actually goes up to 1982.
That's perfect.
Yeah, and I've also got the guidebook for you. So this that was a replica of your old Omni, and this is your new guidebook.
Love that.
So,
And remember the guidebook. The guidebook was in only 2 episodes.
yeah,
Right?
right. Yeah, Titanic and the
It's in the
3
it's in
episodes, right?
it's in the
The
it was
pilot.
in the Titanic one,
Yeah, pilot, Titanic, and
and then the one where we go back to the court.
yeah. So because of the Titanic one, it was
But we have another Voyager in that one.
yeah, Livia, right? Yeah, she was had the guidebook, and then you guys were fighting over it at the end or something. You won't need this, you're retiring. And she's like, I'm not retiring. That was excellent. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great because that's like that scene. I can just vividly recall shooting the scene where, because it was a scene very unlike everything else we shot. Right, it was they made it feel like a modern New York apartment.
Yeah.
We didn't do any more modern stuff after that, except for the airplane when we had to land the jumbo jet.
Oh yeah. That was cool.
And having to do this whole kind of scene with the dog where they've got this great actor dog and he's got a guidebook in his hands and we're fighting over it.
Yeah. And then you're trying to figure out at the end, I wonder who is important on this plane. And then you see the the guy walking by. I don't know who that was to this day, but I should probably know. But it was somebody very important, I know.
That's great. Yeah, I don't remember either.
That's great. Yeah. So
well, listen, I'm so impressed with your craft there of making the Omnis. I gotta say that is because I never knew who made the original one. That was just kind of one of those pieces of movie magic that was part of your daily existence when you're acting, but it's still movie magic that someone had created this cool thing.
Mm-hmm.
And this moment where in each show where he'd pop it open and we'd gather around, we'd look at it. That was always amazing to me because, again, this is another fond memory, because Jon-Erik would be holding it, and Jon-Erik had great hands, right? Because
big hands, right? Yeah,
big hands. It was strong,
mm-hmm.
And there was always this moment where I'd be looking at the thing and I'd be doing the scene emoting, but in the back of my mind, I'm just thinking like, wow, like this is what happens to your hands when you grow up.
Yeah,
right? These are man.
Right.
That's cool. That one day I will have man hands.
Yeah. Yeah, and then he was your buddy and your role model, right? Like
yeah, it was really great.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, so I got a couple of questions from the woman that runs that Voyagers guidebook site. So she was wondering, like, if there's more seasons of Voyagers, what character developments and direction would you have liked for Jeffrey Jones and Phineas Fogg? Like, what would you see happening maybe in that those subsequent seasons?
I mean, it seems to me that the obvious thing would have been that they would have had to just deal with me getting older, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And like becoming more of a peer. There, as a parent, I understand there's something that happens with your child as they become. Ideally, if you're a good parent, you instill this notion in your children from early on that they are their own people. But there's this thing in adolescence where like they're gonna go be their own person irregardless of whether you want them to be or not, right?
Yeah.
And that's where you get all that acting out and the rebelliousness of the teenage years.
Yeah.
And so I think that would have been interesting. I think those topics were touched on a little bit in the series, but that would have had to have been dealt with more. The parental relationship built in there, how that worked.
Yeah, even with one of the unaired scripts where you just you land and then you guys are fighting over the Omni, and like oh, it was time to leave, and you're just fighting over it. So it's a kind of
Right.
a rebellious spirit. So maybe that would have come out more. And
And there would have had to been more love interest for me, right?
yeah,
Like he always got the girl.
yeah, because Bog was like the womanizer, and you might have been more serious dating or something.
Hey, who knows?
Yeah, right.
I just full of life and full of happiness and always laughing and
Yeah,
like
yeah, he just seems like you'd be like really fun to be around and
yeah.
awesome. Yeah, who's your favorite historical person from the show, and who would you have loved the Voyagers to meet? I guess is the other part.
That's a tough one. Again, I loved the ancient history stuff just because that was so fun. The sets and all that stuff was always so great, and
Oh yeah.
the make believe of it was that much richer and deeper. The Graham Bell was great because the set was so wonderful with all his experiments and stuff.
Yeah.
And that actor was really good, and there was some tension that we had to go through in the scenes. That was great. I noticed that you've been to his Menlo Park.
Yeah. So yeah,
it's not in Menlo Park, right? It's at the Henry Ford Museum.
That's right. Yeah. So it's in Dearborn, Michigan. Yeah.
And I love the story that Henry Ford said to him, like, I want to take your whole thing here and bring it to Michigan. And he says, well, my place, my place where all this is crafted, my workshop will never leave Jersey soil. So he just had 3 feet of Jersey soil brought with them, and so it was still on Jersey soil.
Well, technically, though. Yeah.
And I love the notion that he brought Bell there, to see the place after he'd set it all up, and he says, he brought him in. He's like, so what do you think? And his first words were, "It was never this clean."
Yeah. 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 And he said the smell was always some kind of smell.
Oh yeah, with all the chemicals and things.
Yeah, it's all dirty and smelly.
Right. So it was funny going there to that museum in Deer Park with our kids and experiencing that and thinking, this is weirdly familiar, right? It's like almost deja vu. Like I've been in some facsimile of this before. I've already lived through all this.
So cool. Yeah. That's amazing. Yeah. And just so you know, like that, I think I sent you that note that this Omni I'll be sending you. It's actually been in Menlo Park. So it's been in Thomas Edison's lab there. And it's also been in the Wright brothers shop. So the
right.
shop, which was relocated to Dearborn also. So it's been in both of those places.
And I'll drag it to more far-flung places around the world and send you pictures.
Oh, I can't wait. That's amazing. Yeah, I can't wait to see those. Yeah, so do you have any other like favorite moments while you're filming the shows, or any other memories of Voyagers, like things that stick out in your mind from the different episodes? Or
so there was this, I can remember this one funny time after the show, a decade or so after the show. And I saw the woman who had played Caesar's wife. Was it?
Okay. That was like in the Spartacus episode?
Right.
Yeah.
And so I walked up to her and I said, I knew you at the Colosseum. And she got very quiet, like almost like she'd seen a ghost.
Yeah.
And kind of worried looking. And I said, no, it's okay. Remember, you were on Voyagers with me. And she says, oh, of course. Right. She says, you see, I've spent time in Rome, and there were young men at the Colosseum.
Oh yeah.
Such a character.
Oh yeah.
And then also when I got out of college, I came back to LA, trying to figure out what I'm going to do. I have this literature degree now, and I figure I got to be movie making. I've got to use what I've had of my youth and known and apply that to my new skills. And I'm at the supermarket, and there's this great big guy, and I go up to him and like, you were Kubla Khan on my show.
Wow.
And it was Manu Tupu was his name. There's this great Fijian actor. As we're chatting, and he says, "Oh, I've got this great acting class you should come to." And I've never really done acting class before, so I went to his acting class for a while, and it was really fun.
Awesome.
And so that was great, like the continuation of hanging out with Kubla Khan.
Yeah.
But the show itself was, each week was, a different adventure that was so great, fighting the pirates in Malibu. Unending fun as a kid, and then always getting to kind of like marvel at my pal Jon-Erik and watching him develop as an actor, as a performer. Watching him, he did this great thing. We were doing the Joe Louis episode, and he's supposed to be sparring with Joe Louis, and so they roll the camera, and he gets in there, and he's got this great boxing outfit on from the 20s, and they've set up this little ring, and he's kind of bouncing on it, and it's springy, and I watch, and I see this light go off in his eyes, and I think, wait a minute, he's about to do something. And sure enough, out of the blue, while the camera's rolling, obviously not scripted, no one's ready for this, he just does a standing backflip.
Yeah.
Because he could, and everyone was just blown away.
Yeah, I was wondering about that, like if that was scripted, or like how would he even know how to do that?
That's just Jon-Erik being playful, right?
Wow, amazing. Yeah, I know that you were a history teacher as well, right? So
that was
being in Voyagers.
That was something I totally fell into.
Yeah,
I was in my 20s. I was living in LA. All of a sudden, I kind of ran out of the money that I'd grown up earning. So I needed a job all of a sudden, and I didn't really know anything about getting a job. And someone mentioned with a college degree, you can go and substitute teach. So I went and got a substitute teaching credential and had this wild ride of substitute teaching all over Los Angeles, like really and remember, I grew up at this tiny little private school. So going now to all these big public schools all over the city and just seeing, unfortunately, when you go in as a substitute, you're seeing a lot of the dysfunction.
Yeah.
And then you fall in at a school every once in a while, and they kind of keep you because they don't have someone for that position. They see that you're bringing a shining light to these kids, and they're like, come back, and they give you an emergency credential. And I was working as a history teacher at Hollywood High School on an emergency credential, and it was profound. And yeah, teaching history was a lot of fun, and I was sending kids off to college, but I still didn't, I had this weird feeling of like, my destiny has drawn me here, but my destiny is not to be a teacher. Like, I'm good at it, and I can just give in that soulful way that a good teacher needs to give. But I couldn't figure out what it was. And it sucked me back in for yet one more semester. I didn't want to be there, but I was told that, like, the kids, we don't have anyone to fill the position. We still need you. I didn't have anyone in the world to need me. And I walk back in, and the woman at the front desk, she says to me, "We're so glad to have you back, but you're no longer the history teacher. Now you're the ballet teacher."
Oh, no.
And so a new art teacher walked in, and my question was answered. This is why I'm here. This is the woman that I'm married to now.
Oh, wow.
24 years later.
Amazing. Yeah, I was married in 2001, so yeah, been with my wife for a long time. She just started ballet as well.
Ah, there you go.
In her 50s, and just took it up. So yeah, I was just wondering, like, do you think there should be a reboot of Voyagers, or have you heard anything about that? Or would you consider being in one? Like if they said, "Oh yeah, we're gonna start that over again," or
oh man, I would do it in a heartbeat. Come on, right?
awesome. Yeah.
We start with the shot of the boot at the edge of the grave and
Yeah.
pan up, and it's Jeffrey Jones all grown up and
Yeah, that's so awesome. Yeah.
somehow, some other kid would have to fall into it, right? And
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that
would be fantastic. I'd love to do that.
That'd be so cool. Yeah. So I'd love to see a reboot, but that would be amazing. And yeah, like how
listen, it was a great show. Time travel obviously is such a great premise for any kind of serial storytelling, because you have no end to situation, to character. It is the ultimate open-ended storytelling venue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And it's easy to serialize. Like I tend not to like the time travel movies as much as the TV series, because I think that, with the series, you can go to all those different time periods. And it's just so interesting to me to
well, and think about it too, like the supposition of Voyagers that we're fixing history where it's going off track.
Yeah. Yeah.
So ultimately, as a storyteller, you know how the thing has to end.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
The end of each episode is already written because history's back on track.
Right.
So then you have to come up with inventive ways for it to be going off track. And how do you interpret your characters into that flow of time such that they can rejigger the narrative?
Yeah.
That's
so cool.
You never would run out of opportunities of stories to tell.
Yeah. I've seen people like on the forums and stuff, and they say, how did history get off track in the first place? And like, hey, anything could have happened, right? Once they started time traveling, then they could have one little ripple effect, then could have set up all these different things. And you got these people going all over history. So you could see things happening.
Everything Everywhere All at Once, which does such an incredible job of embracing the notion of the multiverse and of simultaneity and of the interwoven nature of existence through a mesh of universes. Like that is just, it's like, it's the last movie. It ends all movies. It's so brilliant.
Yeah, right. And it's so cool that you guys would go like to another time period, and then you'd say, oh yeah, we don't have to worry about going back there because this person didn't recognize us because that was a different time zone and different timelines, where you're just like, oh, okay, that doesn't matter. It's just so interesting. And
but I love, as you pointed out, we're always in a rush.
Yeah.
There's time. You go back.
Yeah. And you've seen Back to the Future, obviously, because he's at the end of the movie, oh, I've got a time machine. I can just go back to whatever time I want, right when he was setting it at the end. He's like, oh, I'll give myself 10 minutes. I'm like, oh, what about 2 hours? So then at there, he didn't have enough time because he's running and it's too late. The guy's already shot the Doc Brown. What do you think like made you embrace photography and a love of travel? Like,
well, so again, that was just stuff that was always built in for me. I mean, the love of travel comes from traveling from birth on. There's, to be able to be a good traveler, there is a built-in supposition that you're going on adventure and that adventurous things are going to happen, and you have to kind of open yourself to that, right? When we travel, we don't, there's no set script to our travel. There's kind of an in and an out date, and then we get there and we start experiencing. And so that's voyaging as opposed to vacationing or touristing, right? That's why a big part of why my wife and I get along so well is because we do that well together. We establish that life habit really well together. We did it with our children, and now they do it on their own. It's great. So So travel is critical, right?
Yeah.
To that adventurous spirit, to that spirit that wants to see and know and experience more.
Mm-hmm.
And then the visual has always just been something that's been strong for me. I'm sure growing up in a visual medium and around cameras, and then being gifted still camera from a young age and kind of always having that with me, having a camera and traveling, well, that goes together incredibly. But just having a camera in your daily life is so important, because for me, a big part of what the camera is for me as part of my art form is the ability to lay down my proof of how I see life beautifully, even the quotidian, the everyday life. In it, I find beauty, and thus the camera becomes my proof machine of how beautiful I find the world.
Yeah.
You know, if you go to Instagram, a lot of my Instagram is populated with just that, just shots from my daily life.
Yeah.
And that for me is it's a good feeling to keep up that portfolio of these proofs. You see?
Yeah, and I think that's some of the best writing I've seen too, is where you know, Proust is describing his first time having a cup of tea, and you're like, oh, okay, how good could that be, right? It's amazing. Descriptive.
Madeline is an omni in itself.
So yeah, I can relate. That's so amazing, and yeah, amazing that you took that up and you're at the other side of the lens now. And so what do you think is next for you? Like, what do you have in your foresight that you're looking forward to?
Part of my daily thing is on my guitars. Like a lot of again, because there's something about making music which is so in the moment, and that's balletic, it is Buddhistic, it's wonderful. And then there's so much still to be learned that I've got, you know, decades of learning to catch up on in the music realm. I'm all the time doing stills and filming. Many of my jobs are both, which is great. And so I've brought the autodidactic nature of being able to go and shoot anything with stills and make those story moments that are those perfect moments. I've taught myself how to do that with filmmaking, where you have to capture a sequence of moments that then tell that story visually, right? And so that's really fun, and that always also means like there's new toys, new machines to acquire and figure out how to integrate into the art world. The scientist in me is always strong, like figuring out the efficiencies of how to do things, how to do them well. The brilliance of having a computer now where that's your dark room. You can shoot raw cinema, bring that in. I edit my own work. I color my own work. So again, these things are really exciting, and you can see it all on my website, meenoPhoto.com. A lot of it goes up on my Instagram, which is Meeno the Man with underscores, Meeno the Man. And so what's next is just more. You know, I mean, there's no specific series that I'll be starring in or anything like that. I mean, that's just not part of my that's not in the ballpark of what I do anymore. But there will always be the next pieces of work I'm doing and working on.
Awesome. Yeah, that's amazing. Well, I'll tell you, it's been a real honor speaking with you, and dream come true to talk to you, Meeno. Just amazing. And I just wanted to say, like, is there anything you want to tell your fans? Because like all the fans of Voyagers, I've talked to a lot of them. They're like very dedicated to the show, think it's an amazing show like I do. Kind of a lot of people grew up watching it, and you know, you were my hero back then. You know, when I was growing up, I'm like, hey, you're the same age as me. And when I was growing up, I was like, that's so cool. Like, it was awesome. And is there anything you want to say to your fans from Voyagers?
Yeah, if I to convey this, if you as a youth, or as like I've heard from many parents now who turned their kids onto the show, and and they love it as well, and then the parent gets to re-love it through their kid. I want you to know that whatever infectious thing that was that pulled you in as a kid, that was real. That came from my real excitement at being able to do this cool show with all these great characters and costumes and props, and to be doing it with one of the genuinely best dudes you could ever meet. Like, the fact that he died early is one of those pieces of total magic ripped out of the universe. Like, that guy was great. Jon-Erik was such a prince, and being able to share the piece of life that I did with him was something seriously profound. I mean, he was very much a role model for me. I have carried with me into my own adult life whatever majesty I could bring from his manhood to my manhood. Like, all that stuff that you connect with as a kid when you watch that show, that was all real. That's what was great about it. It was a very healthy show to be on. You know, like, I didn't grow up a screwed up Hollywood kid because I was able to do things like that were, again, honest, in excitement, in intelligence, in looking and voyaging on in life. Like, I have brought a lot of that with me. And it's been a boon to my life.
That would have been like the most amazing show to be involved with. So I'm sure you must be really proud of your accomplishments on that, because it's phenomenal to watch those episodes again. Like, I watched them over and over, and just it's just incredible. So, and it's been a real honor talking to you, Meeno, and I hope we can do this again. And I'll send you the Omni and guidebook, and
totally excited.
You enjoy it. And and I'll send you some unaired scripts as well, because I might enjoy reading through there and seeing what your lines would have been in season 2. So it's a continuation.
Passion alive.
Yeah, exactly. That's amazing. So I really appreciate your time, Meeno, and thank you again. Let's see. Yeah, so because I heard that with the sets they would take and write scripts around what sets were available, right? So you'd have like, oh, okay, we've got a set from 1920s Prohibition era, and then oh, that's available from this time. Okay, let's write a script around that type of thing. So that's what I've heard. So
I mean, that makes all the sense in the world. You got to figure that you have to be ingenious to make a show like that, and you have to be able to rely on the fact that you're not going to build everything from scratch. So there's this great part of the back lot called, I think, New York Street, and like that was we returned there so many times. It was where it was this one little archway was Germany, and it's World War I, and we're getting shot at, and we run into Mary Pickford. And then that same little alley we came back to, and it's Fagin and the Artful Dodger. And so often, like, you would literally just turn the camera from here to here, and now you're shooting the Spartacus thing. Right? And it's all just how you would kind of decorate what you had. So yeah, I'm sure they were writing it with regard to what they had either on the back lot, or what we could shoot relatively close by. And that's, again, the beauty of LA is most days are beautiful, so you can go out and shoot. You don't have to worry about rain, and you don't have to go far to get into kind of a Western landscape.
Yeah, right, exactly. And everything's right there. And I've seen some of the, like, on the websites, they have, people will go to the Universal backlot and they still find like the set from the pilot episode. Oh, that's still there. So then they'll film it, and it's so interesting to see. So cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, but that would be fun to do a thing where you recreate some scenes shot for shot. I mean, in so many ways you probably could if you were inventive enough and had the ability to do the costumes and everything.
Yeah.
You know, where we did Florence Nightingale. It was just a field. There were people, guys are getting bombed.
Yeah.
We're literally, if you move the camera 2 inches this way, there's the Psycho motel.
Oh, okay.
Like that. You're all there on the back lot.
I've been through Universal a couple of times and just seeing, it was just all condensed, and that New York
right.
stuff that you're talking about, then you go down there and then you turn the corner, there's something else. It's wow. Yeah, so it must have been pretty amazing as a kid, right? And your like your imagination's really wild as a kid, and then you just see all this stuff and you're like, oh, you can go over here and be in a different time. And
right. And then of course, you yell cut, and you're having lunch there in the midst of it all, and that's so funny, right?
Yeah.
So we went back recently in 2021. We went to Greece.
Oh, yeah.
8 days after it had opened from COVID.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were some of the only people there, and it was wild because we're walking around at night and the cafes are now back open and they have lights and stuff like this.
Mm-hmm.
But they still had a standing order that had not been undone, where they couldn't make music late at night, because during COVID everyone's just locked in their house, so like no music so that people go to bed.
Yeah, it just cut out for some reason. You just froze and then it cut out. But you were talking about Greece.
Well, and so it was really neat because they couldn't make music at night.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You'd walk around and you'd look down this great little walkway, and there would be people and light pouring out of a cafe,
mm-hmm.
but there was no sound.
Yeah.
And so whenever I'm in a weird situation like that, it's just like being on a movie set. It looks like a movie set in between takes.
Right? Oh, really? Yeah, right.
When I went back to Europe as a teenager, and like it was so wild for me to be in these great streets, and then you walk into a building and there's actually an inside to the building, because I'm so used to being on movie sets where when you walk into the building there's nothing there, it's just
right. And you saw all the Europe scenes there, and right. That's so funny. Yeah, the one of the Omnis I sold was it went to Amsterdam, so it's it's in the video that with Jamestown, historic Jamestown. So that's the one that Omni is in Amsterdam. so it's kind of a neat connection then, because that's where you were born, right?
Right. Yeah.
Awesome. So there's an Omni floating around to Amsterdam somewhere.
maybe when I'm there with it, it'll help guide me to it, and we'll bump.
Yeah, exactly. yeah. But it was amazing talking to you, and it was a real honor and dream come true for me. So I really appreciate all your time, and I wish you all the best. And
I'll come back with some adventures of where I've voyaged with the Omni. I'm really excited to have it. Thank you again so much.
Okay. But again, a real honor. Yeah, thank you so much, Meeno. Okay, you take care. Okay. Bye.